Hello and welcome to The Vicar's Watch Diddley.
The podcast where three priests link our stories with those of a Reverend Geraldine Granger and other TV vicars. I'm Kate.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ruthie. This episode, we're going to do a review of season 1. We're going to look over what has happened over the different episodes and the overarching themes of it all. And yeah, just chat about that today.
Well, hello everybody.
Hello.
How has our week been this week as we journey into this next episode?
Well, you know what? I am feeling really happy and a bit excited because we have just finished now our long run of festivals in the church calendar. You know, it starts with harvest, and when you get into remembrance, then Advent, Christmas, Epiphany, Lent, Easter, just had Pentecost, and now I've got a few months where I can just enjoy being in parish. So yeah, I'm feeling quite happy and arranging like visits to go and meet people.
All the vicars come out of their vicarages to socialise once again.
Been so busy with everything going on, and we're recording just after the Jubilee celebrations, aren't we? So it's been a busy. It takes it out of you having tea and cake in various churches, doesn't it? Which has been part of my weekend. So yeah, it's been busy all time. How about you, Jenny? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm happy as well. I agree with Kate. It's been a good run of joyful seasons, but I am feeling tired today. It's Pentecost Monday, and it is definitely wedding season in our church. So we are, we just had a lovely wedding this weekend. In fact, 2 weddings, and then in my life, 1 in parish and 1 in my family, which is lovely. So it's just, and then Wedding Central, meeting with lots of couples, getting them ready for their big days, which I absolutely love. But yeah, after the Jubilee weekend, Pentecost and all the celebrations, I'm like, needing extra coffee and Holy Spirit today. But yeah, really good, really good. How about you, Ruth?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, as I said, all the Jubilee stuff. It's been ace. Cool.
Yeah.
I was talking to Kate last night because it's been her birthday, which was very, very nice. And she said something, and I told her, you have to say that on the podcast because that's so Diddley. So, Kate.
Yes. So I'm going to do an I'm a vicar and sort of thing. I'm a vicar, and my life is basically the Vicar of Diddley at the moment. As I think I've said before, I have 5 parishes. And as we've already said in this podcast, it's been the Jubilee weekend. And of course, every village wanted to do something by themselves for the Jubilee. So yesterday, I went to 3 Jubilee picnics in the park in a row.
Oh my goodness.
So if I'm sounding a bit rough today, I'm just really tired.
So when Kate mentioned this, I was just reminded of an episode that we haven't covered yet, the Christmas lunch incident where Geraldine has all those different lunches and here's Kate going to all these different picnics.
Brilliant. I love that. So true.
Brilliant networking opportunity.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
Yes.
Absolutely exhausting.
And I think what our listeners will really want to know is how many scones with cream and jam did you manage to consume across those times? Dairy-free scones with dairy-free cream.
Oh, I was naughty and I played my dietary requirement card to not actually eat anything.
Oh my goodness! Hold on.
I know, I had a big plate of pasta before I went out and I had some dinner in the slow cooker for when I got back.
Oh,
How many cups of teas?
oh man.
I had a champagne flute of orange juice. Because I did not want to drink, because at the moment the main road that I would normally take is closed, so I was having to take all the country roads, and I did not want to risk any impairment of my thinking or driving.
We do not advocate drinking or driving. There've been vicars who've got done for that, haven't they? Well, they've had too much after Christmas service. There we go.
Oh.
Anyway, Ruthie, what are we doing this week?
Yeah, so this week we're doing something a bit different. Instead of looking at an individual episode, we've done all the kind of official episodes for series 1 of The Vicar of Dibley. I nearly said the Vicar's Watch Dibley. No, the Vicar of Dibley. And so we thought we'd do a little review of the series. So we're going to look back at the following episodes that are part of series 1. So we started with The Arrival, then it was Songs of Praise, Community Spirit, The Window and the Weather, Election, and Animals. And Kate, you're going to briefly run through the narrative that we've been through over this series.
Yes, I am. So I was thinking about that bigger picture of the series. I think when we've been analysing, we go so in depth with each of the individual episodes, and we've been mixing it up by breaking things up by bringing in other episodes and talking about other things. So the narrative arc from The Arrival to Animals. In our first episode, we have Geraldine turning up at the parish and the upset that that causes in the community. People don't really know what to do with this young woman who is now their vicar. They're not sure how they feel. We have that establishing premise of particularly David Horton not liking that they've got a female vicar and everyone else being unsure. Then, throughout the series, we see that being extrapolated and investigated and developed. So, in the next episode, in Songs of Praise, we have Geraldine starting to make her splash on that kind of more visible national level with Songs of Praise. People are interested in her because she's a novelty. They want to go to Dibley because they've got a female vicar, and that's different. Then, in the next few episodes, we start to see Geraldine digging in, getting used to the community and her parish. With Community Spirit, we have the really classic village fete, which, for those of us who've been doing Jubilee stuff, will have found very, very familiar. Then we have the kind of building, fabric, church-specific stuff with Window and the Weather, and fundraising in particular. We see Geraldine kind of bringing in some of her talents to bring change to that specific community. Then as we approach Election, we start to see how Geraldine has won over the hearts of at least those who know her and work with her the most. So you have most of the village actually wanting to put Geraldine forward to be the new parish councillor, chairperson of a parish council, in opposition to David Horton. So we see how she has really won the minds of the community, and people are starting to follow her and follow her guidance, which then brings us to the end of the series with Animals, where once again we have that conflict between Geraldine and David, where Geraldine wants to do something different and exciting and controversial, perhaps. David making a big noise, being in opposition, but the great reveal that actually everyone is supporting Geraldine, and right at the end, David starting to think, maybe I was wrong. So that is really the overarching narrative, I think, of the narrative thread of season 1.
Yes, well done. And throughout it all, we have the jokes and the laughter and lots of side plots of various things that the council, mischievous things that they've got as a council. And so next we wanted to, each of us have kind of come up with a theme that's been running through this series that we wanted to chat about and explore a little bit. So Jenny, what was your theme that you thought of?
Yeah, so looking back over all of our episodes and of series 1, I think the thing for me, and maybe this is because of the recent theme of Pentecost as well, but this kind of beautiful dance or tension between diversity and unity. I mean, diversity when you look at the parish council and the characters and how hilarious and creatively they've been created, as in like how unique and individual they are. And yet there's something really lovely about, with all their differences and all their quirkiness, how they're unified around the same cause. And I guess, of course, a part of that is just because, well, they're villagers living in this village together. But actually they're working together with each other and alongside Geraldine. And I just love it because I feel like this diversity and unity is so familiar in church life as well. Sometimes it's very easy to think, oh, we're all Christians, therefore we all look and say and believe exactly the same things, and we just get along. But it's never the picture, and I love that the Vicar of Dibley doesn't shy away from this, and it makes a real point, and it makes it comedic, and yeah, I think so. I think diversity and unity as being a part of, God's calling for us to live in all of that colourfulness, and to celebrate it, but also to have a good giggle at it as well. That's a big theme for me, I think, of this season.
I thought it was really interesting that you said this, because when you first said about diversity and unity, I thought, well, it's not very diverse at all. In the it's a very white middle to upper class village, and so there are the characters that have their different quirks, but they all kind of fit into one little slot, and I think that's one of the failings of Vicar of Dibley. But I mean, it's also a kind of a product of its time in that it's very white, it's very middle class, it's quite posh in lots of ways. But I think that also represents quite a few villages.
You know, actually, I think I might disagree with you.
Oh, go on, let's have a fight.
So you're right that it is very white, but I think there is more economic diversity than you initially see, like, when you dig deeper. And I think this is very true of village life, at least in my experience. A big thing in a rural context is what's called rural poverty, and how poverty in rural areas is a lot more hidden. You don't see it as much because it's beautiful surroundings. It's not like when you're in a city where you have, not quite slums, but, people all on top of each other, and you walk into an area and it's
more obvious
the area
poverty,
which is less well off. Whereas in a village, you can have, if I'm walking down one of the roads I've got in my head, one house is immaculately well kept. They've recently had renovations, and right next door, you've got the house which has had less attention. It's not as well kept, and that in those houses there's two very different living conditions. But on the surface, because it's a nice village, you wouldn't really notice. So if you look at the characters on the parish council in Vicar of Dibley, who we particularly see, so you've got David Horton, who's that kind of upper middle class. They're in Horton Manor. You know that they are an economic power within the village. Then you've got Owen with his farm, who he's land rich in a way, but in farming, and I think particularly in livestock, which we know that Owen is, so much of your capital goes into the animals, and it is risky because if something goes wrong, and we saw this with foot and mouth, something goes wrong with your animals, it is devastating. And this is in the 90s. Particularly now, farming is very difficult economically, and lots of people having to sell their herds. And I think if we had episodes now, there would be an episode about Owen having to give up some of his livestock, and how sad he would be about that. So you've got Owen, and I know there's those jokes about his lack of sanitation and cleanliness and whatever.
Gross.
But, I wouldn't describe Owen as middle class.
No.
And then you've got Frank, who, I think he's middle class, but the fact that he has to take the bus into town for his day trip. So he doesn't have a vehicle, he doesn't have transport of his own. He's not, that well off. He's clearly a pensioner and living off a pension. He does have some funds because obviously he dresses immaculately, he presents himself very well. In this season, I don't think we see the inside of his cottage. But there's diversity there. He's not in the same bracket as David Horton whatsoever. And then Jim, when we visit his house, actually, which could well be a cottage very near Frank's, is that situation where I think Jim's house, we know, isn't in great condition. There's that hole over his bed, and they're wearing raincoats to go to bed.
Yeah.
Because they can't seem to afford, to fix their cottage. Letitia, again, we don't really get a great clear sense of what her economic status is, but I get the impression that she's living in what would have been one of the farmhands' cottages. That's kind of where her family has been living. Because the way that these big farms work is they build these houses for the farmhands to live in, and the families would live in them, and you kind of through generations. And so I get the impression that maybe she's from that kind of stock of not the farmers but the farmhands, which again is a different level in the social structure of a rural village. So yeah, I think there is diversity, but not the diversity you expect in this more modern cosmopolitan world, where those of us who've lived in cities, diversity looks very different.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I think you're right, Kate. I think in terms of like heritage, like there's no diversity at all in terms of different cultures. I'm just trying to think. There's like not even well, we may come to some sort of like casual characters to come in later, but there's not at all. It is yeah, incredibly white. Sexuality as well, not really. If anything, there are some, jokes about those are different, same-sex attracted. But actually, yeah, there's none there at all. Age, even, there's not loads, but
we do get a revelation later about Frank's sexuality.
But even just one is still
and he's single. We don't see a couple or anything like that. Yeah,
definitely. So not so much. Well, a little bit, yeah, like you say on sexuality. Age a little bit, stage of life a little bit, but I think what Caitlin said about the social positioning of people and the kind of the variation you get in village life is interesting. But I think also just in terms of their thinking, like the way they approach problems or worship or church life, that's, I guess, it's a very niche kind of diversity. But just the kind of it's the classic, how do people work together? So I think when you're wombling around in the world, you sort of think, well, everyone thinks like I do, and everyone believes what I believe. And the Vicar of Dibley highlights that actually nobody thinks or approaches things as you do. Even the smallest things of like creating a newsletter or how you, worship God. And I think
how you see a window.
Exactly. And oh my goodness, the debate they have. And I love that about it for putting that in the spotlight, I suppose.
Yeah. And the unity thing is a big thing, isn't it? And the church in lots of ways becomes that central unifier, doesn't it? Because it does the activities, and that becomes a hub of stuff, of just village life. And that's where they all get unified. And it's thinking of that overarching narrative, you see the unity build where Geraldine's very much on her own at the beginning, and then it has Alice as her cheerleader, and you just see more and more kind of being added into that circle of unity, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, and I think you see the role of the vicar as a figure of unity in the village. The vicar is a person who moves between the different social spheres, is visiting people in their homes, is talking to everyone, and is someone who everyone feels that they can relate to when things are going well. Like, this is the ideal world of the vicar as a figure for unity. But also the vicar is a bit of a figurehead as a representative of the village. Yeah. So it's really weird, at least it was weird for me, to be asked to judge the portrait competition for the Queen, like at one of these Jubilee things. Because, you think, I'm just me, why is it so important for people to see me be the public figure and that kind of civic figure? But actually, there is a sense of this is someone who we can all look to, someone who is our representative in the community. And we see that across a series of Geraldine becoming that, and it's that power struggle of maybe that was David Horton before, and that's shifted.
And I'm going to make a sweeping statement in bringing this back to today and our roles as clergy, that I think that's a much bigger thing in villages than it is in towns and cities. So when I was in more of a village church, that the person with the dog collar became more of a public unifying figure. Whereas I think often in cities that's less of a case.
Yeah, very much so. I think people actually pay attention to the vicar's letters I write for the local magazine. And, you know, they know who I am, even if I've never met them.
Yeah.
Which is really weird, and are interested in what I'm doing in a way that when I was in a city parish, you're just anonymous outside of your congregation and key activities.
Yeah.
I do write for my parish magazine, but I don't think anybody reads it.
Oh.
I have the worst of both worlds. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure they do. Do you?
You should put something really weird in it,
Yeah.
and just see if anyone comments on it,
Yeah, so
and then you'll know.
Oh, funny. Yeah, very true. But yeah, no, it does really vary. But like you say, the unity comes from actually the church becomes the meeting point for them, and like you say, in this village, Geraldine has that unifying nature as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, and again in villages, I think the church is the natural unifying point because it's the historical landmark. It's the point everyone, whether you are a churchgoer or not, everyone has an opinion on the church because that's where the generations of their family have been buried. You know, the amount of comments I encounter about the state of the churchyard, or concerns about the building, and people are actually interested and invested in, again, a way that perhaps urban ministry you don't encounter as much.
Yeah. But then interestingly, when we had that break in at my church recently, it was a bit of a rallying of people. You know, this is our church, and they've done this to us, despite people not necessarily attending. So but I definitely think it's much more of a village thing, because
it's a community asset thing. And we mentioned before that I've been making a bibliopoly, right?
Oh yes, I can't wait to
and
play
one
this.
of the things I did for the green squares, which is kind of the more higher priced end, was I did the community assets. And you've got the pub, you've got the parish hall, and you've got the church. And I think this is common for a lot of parishes. I think, you know, rural but also urban, where the community has a sense of these are our public treasures, and they define our area as it is different to the next community over. This is our church, this is our pub, this is our gathering point.
You know, churches are great and all, but there is something very special about village pubs, isn't there? When you get your classic ones with like a roaring fire and, you know, someone who's been sat there with their dog for a large part of the day having a pint of bitter at the bar. Oh, good village pub is great.
So true.
And just as much gossip about the village pub as there is about the church.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the place to go to get your goss. So, Kate, you came up with a different theme that you think is key in this series.
Yeah, so the theme that I picked up on, which I think I touched on when I did the overview, the narrative, is conflict and change.
Yeah.
Obviously, the key conflict in season 1 is between Geraldine and David Horton. You have that conflict of opinion, which is very much Geraldine thinks that it's okay to have a female vicar, and David doesn't.
Yeah.
But I think there's, as I said, there's also that power struggle where David has become used to being the power figure in the community, where is it Reverend Potts who was the
Pottle?
Reverend Pottle was a predecessor, and I get the impression that he wasn't looking to be you know, a big unifying figure.
Yeah.
He was at the end of his ministry pottering along. And so David was the big name on campus, right? Now Geraldine has arrived and she is making a name for herself.
Yeah.
People are starting to look to her because they've been given an alternative. I think that's what Election, the episode, is all about.
Yeah.
There being an alternative to the established power figure. And people are starting to question and challenge, and change is happening, whether they like it or not. And that's a big theme. It's not just about, oh, the shape of the Church of England is changing, we've now got female clergy, but actually the shape of the village, the power dynamics, it's all changing.
Yeah. Do you think
Yeah.
Jerry wants to have that power dynamic? Do you think she comes into that role going, I'm going to be an alternative to David? Or do you think that's just part of something that, wearing a dog collar and being the vicar, you step into that role because it's given to you whether you want it or not?
Well, I think that actually, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking that clergy tend to come into a parish and tend to be there. And this is not the rule by any stretch. I know some people are staying in their parishes for 25 years plus, but tends to be, I would say, around 7 to 12 years you'll stay in a parish. And in that time, you have a tiny window in the life of the church to affect change. And I'm going to make the bold statement that I believe that the Holy Spirit touches everything it changes. And I think that Geraldine, filled with the Holy Spirit, comes into this parish and just by being herself affects change and a sort of mini revival. And she literally brings it up and out of itself. So I don't think she comes in. I mean, now don't get me wrong. We've seen her. She's not all pure. We've seen she's human. We've seen she's sassy. She's definitely got ulterior motives. She gets distracted, as we all do. Praise the Lord for our humanness. But actually, I think it's by nature of being her. She allows this church to flourish. And in that, there is a kind of, a conflict and a tussling with the, you know, the order that has been, I suppose. What do you guys think?
I think, I don't think it's an intentional thing of Geraldine is coming in thinking, I want to be the power figure. I want to change everything. I think she's coming in because she's called to. She knows God is calling her to this place to bring about the kingdom in this village, in this community. And she is unapologetically her. When she comes in, she is powerful, she is joking, she has come prepared for a fight. She knows that there will be opposition and she is refusing to roll over and become a doormat. And because she's doing that, she is entering into the power narrative. I think she probably also sees that the amount of power and control and influence that David Horton has is unhealthy for him and unhealthy for the community. Yeah. So she is rebalancing the scales. Because as I said, Reverend Pottle, towards the end of his life, he was a lovely sleepy gentleman from the sounds of it.
Potty Pottle.
And just let things go on, right?
Yeah.
But she is stepping into the authority that being a vicar gives us, where people, as we've said, people look to you. You are that unifying figure. And I think especially at the start of your time in a place, however long you're going to be there, that first year is key to establishing who you are and how people are going to relate to you. If she had just rolled over and let David do his thing, that would set the tone. And it would make any change so much harder moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. And lots of this is thrust upon her just because she's a young woman. Like, she is going to encounter conflict and change just with the basics of who she is. Like, there's no necessarily with personality or anything like that to begin with that causes conflict. The conflict is that she is a female. clergy person, and I think that's a really interesting thing that you experience in ministry, is that you can cause conflict just by your gender. Nothing to do with like your likes or dislikes or anything like that, and that's true with other things, with sexuality, whether you have children or not, what pets you have, like some of these are just kind of part of who you are intrinsically, and you can't affect it in any way whatsoever. But other things are kind of extra to you and cause conflict just by people looking at you at times.
Although I do feel like I do completely agree. I just think it's dealt with really quickly. I think we might have this as a favourite, but Arrival deals with that issue quickly, and then it's kind of like the parishioners learn, oh, you can still be a priest and wrapped in the body of a woman, and then it's like, okay, move on. I'm just trying to think if the issue of Geraldine's being a woman, I guess it does kind of sometimes creep into other episodes, but I like how it's dealt with quickly, and then it's like, okay, but you're right, the first barrier is just who you are, and then it's like, and then they get into the meat of all that's to come, but yeah, you're right.
I think the big upset is dealt with immediately.
Yeah.
But we do see it still bubbling up every now and then, I think particularly with David Horton, again as them being the contrasting figures, and that thing he said that got us so angry when we were talking about animals.
I just got a flashback to him saying, you're a lovely woman and you should be running a cake shop, not a church.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
you're right. Yeah, forget what I said.
Yeah, so it does.
So good, and it pisses my
and but I think that's then again very real, is you have the initial upset of who you are, and then every now and then it just bubbles up, either through microaggressions or other ways, and maybe not intentionally, but people calling you dear girl and all of that, or asking you when you're going to get married or when you're going to have kids, or people having that conversation with you.
But there are advantages too, aren't there? And I think that's important to say too. It is a cause of conflict, but I mean. Can you imagine if Geraldine was actually just Jerry the gentleman and was flirting their way into getting money for the window? That would be a very different episode. That's not the only advantage that you can flirt your way into £10,000.
If Mr. Frobisher was also still who he was, that would be a very radical episode.
Or if she was Madam Frobisher.
Oh, there you go. That makes
Yeah, I think actually some people do find it really refreshing how you're different. I mean, people say that to me. As much as you have those people who are not sure about you being a female, there's those who just love it because you're different and you're new, and you're a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
But then I think I've been reflecting that because of the kind of timing of The Vicar of Dibley, so the main change in conflict focus is Geraldine's gender, whereas if this is like her going in now in 2022, going into a rural parish, the change she would be needing to negotiate and enforce would be so much greater, and the conflict would be greater, because it's a lovely dream to have one village parish. And not have to worry about imperatives of growing the congregation, or the church is going to become a festival church and eventually move towards closure, or money and parish share, and all those concerns and conflicts which keep us clergy up at night trying to, justify the parishes having a stipendiary clergy, a paid clergy person.
Yeah.
And I feel I can't decide whether I feel that I'm envious of Geraldine, that the only point of change is her gender, really, to begin with, and she's not having to come in with this other agenda of, I've got to turn everything around, or that's it. Or because of the timing where there were no more female clergy before at that point, it's deeply uncomfortable for her. What do you think?
Well, I think that she does have the pressure of numbers. I'm just thinking back to that first time where she sits down with Alice and works out who actually comes along on a Sunday morning.
Kind of crowd are we pulling in here?
Yeah, to the Sunday gigs, and it's
Yeah.
like 4, and then 5 at Christmas. Oh, actually, no, it is 4 actually at Christmas. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of
Yeah.
thing, and it may only be an internal pressure on Geraldine, but I wonder if I don't know. I like to think the bishop's like, this is a sleepy village. We need to shake it up. We need to do something new here, and send in Geraldine to be like, okay, we can get a lot more out of Dibley, as in like, God, there's maybe something special wants to happen here. But yeah, and I do know what you mean. But I think there's always that pressure. I mean, that is what it is to be a clergy person as well. To join a new community, to know that you're there, it is a transient role. You can't get away from that. And to think, well, what am I going to do in the short time that I've got to help lead and encourage, inspire and equip this congregation, this church family, this parish? What am I going to do here? And I wonder if just by very nature of her calling, Geraldine comes in and she's like, right, okay, what are the things that need to be sorted out? And then, that kind of works through. I don't know.
Obviously it's interesting because if we take the bigger overview of the show, we can't apply the kind of more normative ministry patterns to Geraldine because she sticks in Dibley to retirement, you know, for the whole of her ministry, which is so incredibly rare now.
Does she?
Yeah. Well, she's still... They've done the lockdown episodes and she's still the vicar of Dibley.
I suppose.
Has she retired?
Well, no, but at some point I need to pitch to you my episode idea for Geraldine's retirement / the new vicar of Dibley coming in. I'll do that another time. But you know, kind of where the actress Dawn French is and the kind of age of the character, I think we're looking at Geraldine is retiring and probably staying in Dibley, to be honest.
No.
I don't get that vibe. I think
she's settled in. It's her home.
As a general rule, though,
you shouldn't.
It's encouraged for clergy people when they retire to move out of the village that they, or a city, or wherever the parish that they are currently living in, because it makes it so much easier for the person coming in, and there is the possibility that you're there and go, well, I wouldn't do it that way, or whatever it is. There can be a power struggle that's created if you stay in the same place, which I've heard stories of clergy staying in the same place and causing that kind of interesting dynamic where you just want to tell them to bugger off.
being controversial, and we really shouldn't dwell on this, but would someone go in to be the vicar of Dibley, or would it be the vicar of Dibley and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and actually having a house for duty person in the parish would be really helpful. Anyway, that's a huge diversion, and we're not talking about the theoretical retirement. We're talking about the start of the ministry.
Yeah.
So anyway, a major theme has been conflict and change. I think that's going to continue because it's a theme in all ministry. Ruthie, what theme did you pick up on?
Yeah, the thing that I wanted to talk about, I haven't got as neat a name as you two have given yours, but it's village life and the annual round. So the annual round is something that clergy often refer to as the kind of the year of services that you've got. So we start with Christ the King, which is a service where we celebrate Jesus as King and Lord, which is around November time, and then you go into Advent, and then it's Christmas, and then it's Epiphany, and then you think about Lent, and then it's Easter, and then it's Pentecost, and I forgot Ascension Day, that happens in there beforehand, and then when you get to summer, it's wedding season, and you might have the children's holiday club and all that kind of thing. And then you get to harvest, and then you start again with Christ the King. And I've probably missed ones in there.
You've missed out Remembrance.
Oh, I forgot Remembrance.
I was going to say Trinity Sunday starts the ordinary time, doesn't it?
But to say, it's Trinity Sunday soon, isn't it? There's this kind of annual round of set points in the year when a church can be a big part of community life. And so, harvest festivals, we still do them in cities, and it doesn't quite feel the same because it hasn't got that same kind of connection with rural life. And so the church is so key in all these different bits, and we see through the episodes the different stages that you go through during the year. And I just thought that was an interesting thing that really resonates with what we actually do in our work and our ministry, and how important these different points are, and how they can be used brilliantly, and the creativity that you can have with it, or you can just be really boring and do the same thing every year.
Yeah.
The shape of the vicar's year, as I'm going to call it, which is slightly different from what I would call the lectionary year, because we have the lectionary year, the church calendar, which takes us from, as Ruthie has described, from Advent kind of through the full cycle of the church festivals and the church teaching. But then on top of that, for the vicar's year, you have the additional stuff like wedding season, church fete season, all those additional stuff, which the Vicar of Dibley, that's what the Vicar of Dibley focuses on more than the church year. We don't see Geraldine doing remembrance. We don't see her doing really Advent or...
I think she does the north, east, south, west of the liturgical year. So we've got harvest, we've got Christmas, we've got Easter. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, the details, not so much. But we don't... Oh, I was going to say we don't see her do a wedding, but of course we do, as we will come on
We'll
to.
get to.
Yeah.
But we don't see her do the bits between those kind of key points. Whereas actually, as I said when we were doing the How Is Your Week, I feel like the Vicar's year, you hit harvest, because although the church year begins in December, I feel like the Vicar's year in a way begins at harvest, kind of September,
yeah.
And then you've got festival season. So you kind of then get to the other side of Ascension and Pentecost and Trinity Sunday. And then you've got your summer where you are doing weddings, you are doing maybe more creative stuff or maybe more pastoral stuff. But you've got a stretch where the church calendar is quieter. So it's as what's called the very long stretch of ordinary time. But... yeah, that I'd call that the vicar's calendar, which is slightly different from the church calendar. Do you think?
It's just all busy. It's all busy. It's just all busy because even when there's not a season, you've got the home groups, the courses, or the alpha courses, or the weddings, and then there's funerals all the time, baptisms. Oh my goodness, in the summer months as well. Yeah, I know what you mean. I guess there is a kind of dual calendar, but I think they're all, to me, they feel all go all the time, but because that might be because I'm still new in my first incumbency, so everything is like new. Well, 3 years, it's not that new. Oh well.
If they're two circles, they're very intertwined and interconnected.
They
aren't they?
are, and it would be impossible for Geraldine to cover all of those, I guess, in Vicar of Dibley in a way to do it kind of like enough to hold the viewer's attention and to do it comedically and well. Like you couldn't have I don't think you could have a Remembrance Day episode because it would be like it's too dangerous to try and make that sort of, I don't know, funny or.
You do. Vicar of Dibley tries to explain the Trinity on Trinity Sunday.
Now that is what I'd like to see.
It would be really interesting for this niche group of watchers who are probably, it's just for clergy, and maybe a few of the really dedicated church wardens and church members. Obviously, what the writers have done is they've gone for the more accessible sense of the church calendar. So they've gone for that bit which is more rooted in community and village experience and is very real, but obviously we're not seeing the full picture. I feel like we do get glimpses, like when we were doing we talked about the Easter episode, which isn't quite in season 1, and how Geraldine is seeming really frustrated with Alice. And my suggestion is I think she's trying to write her Holy Week sermons and Easter stuff. And so we see the hints of it, perhaps, and the little morsel tastes. But obviously we're not focusing on that, because for anyone else it would just be overload. As you said, Jenny, for you it's overwhelmingly busy. There's just so much happening, and The Vicar of Dibley as a light-hearted comedy is not the place to do reflections about how a vicar balances their time and makes sure that they have enough time off and aren't overworking. And oh my goodness, Geraldine has now had clergy burnout. What a lovely upbeat episode.
Yeah. And that's where we can do all that stuff here, though.
But I think I said it in a previous podcast, they're deliberately being nostalgic with what they're looking at, and that's why they've got the filters over the lenses of the camera that give it kind of a warm, fuzzy glow as part of it, and so they're picking those nostalgic bits. But I think it also shows just how central the church can be in life, and actually what a privilege it is to be that central and a key part of a community, and that's a lot of weight, and that's hard going at times, but also a real privilege to be able to be a place for people when things go right and things go wrong, and
so true.
all our roles, and that is exhausting at times and brilliant at times, and a whole load of up and down.
So true. Yeah, what a theme. Very true.
So those are the kind of three big themes that we thought are running through this first season of The Vicar of Dibley. There are other themes going on as well, but we're not going to talk about those right now. So tough.
You have to wait and see.
I would like from each of us, very briefly, what is our favourite moment from the series?
I was gasping in preparation. I love community spirit and animals as an episode because they are familiar, but I hope I'm not stealing it from you guys because it's the best episode. Arrival has my heart.
Yeah.
And my favourite moment, even above Alice talking about not believing it's butter in the kitchen, even above Frank believing that he might have a photograph of his dog with the window that's broken and a little bit of reflection in his eye, even above both of those scenes, my ultimate favourite moment in season 1, and maybe even all of the seasons, although don't hold me to that yet, is Geraldine's arrival. Her coming out of the pouring rain in her massive yellow coat, hanging it up, which I've got with myself, big old yellow coat, hanging it up, dusting down her hair, just pulling up a dog collar. She turns around to David and he goes, "Oh my God." And he literally covers his mouth in shock. And her confidence that continues, her security, of course it's, battered a little bit to and fro, it's pulled apart, it's tested, but her confidence and her assurance that she's in the right place, that moment of her arrival is my ultimate favourite. And I also am a big fan of the yellow coat. So that would, for me, it would be my favourite episode of this season and my favourite moment. I hope I haven't stolen it, because I feel like, that's the best moment.
I think, I've said this before, The Arrival is probably my favourite episode. However, I really enjoyed The Window and the weather. Yeah. It has lots of moments I just loved, like Little George and picking up the different things to go into the window. And you know what? I actually even liked the kind of flirting with Mr. Frobisher. Mr. Frobisher. And Geraldine just owning herself. But my favourite moment, and it's not a comedy moment, it is when we were watching that final part of Animals and everyone is turning up and I cried. And that's got to be, for me, a favourite moment of everyone supporting Jerry.
Oh, that's really lovely. Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm really struggling to think of pinpoint a specific moment. I think my favourite moments in general throughout the episodes are the little chats that Geraldine has with Alice. I think those moments in the vicarage are just so true to life, and it's a time that you see Jerry let her guard down a bit more and she's more vulnerable and things like that. So I think I'd probably say those are my favourite bits. And if I was to pick one of those, I adore it when they go to the door and shout, "Enter if you're sexy and love Jesus."
Yes.
That is just a stupendous moment. But if I was going to go for a more kind of sentimental moment, I think I'd pick that bit where the window's revealed in the window of the weather. And everyone's just like, yeah, that's stunning. That's wonderful.
Cracker. I think you should invite our listeners if they're listening and they're thinking, oh, well, you didn't mention this moment. Like, would you please email, tweet us, or comment on IG or wherever you find us? We'd love to know your favourite moment too.
Yes, tell us where we're wrong. To finish this episode, I'm surprising these two, they don't know what's about to happen, is it's mainly for Jenny in lots of ways, for you to redeem yourself. And I thought a fun way to finish with this series is to do a quiz.
Oh my God.
So, thank goodness for Sporkle, because they have a quiz on the Vicar of Dibley. And it's not just series 1, actually. It's all of the series that I mentioned.
Oh my goodness.
And given the fact that you failed on the radio and now have a podcast about Vicar of Dibley, I thought this would be a chance for you to redeem yourself, Jenny.
I can't remember if it was 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, but I agree it was less than I intended.
Well, there's 30 questions.
Oh!
There's a 10-minute timer for this, and none of the answers are up, so I can join in as well.
Okay.
So the way that this Sporkle quiz works, and I'm going to have to type really quickly and try and spell things, is I will read out the question. We can do it that we just do one hit, that you've got to get it right first time, or because it's Sporkle, you can just type in as quickly, as many times as you want. So I'll read a question, and if you can give the answer, and we'll see how many we can get.
Yeah. Are we group minding this? Wait, this isn't a competition, this is us.
Oh no, this is teamwork. You
This
know,
is
Jenny's
team.
going to need all the help.
Jenny was ready
to
for this to be a
I thought it was
competition.
individuals. I was like, I've got my pen and paper, I've just tested my people.
No.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
So the questions are up. I'm going to type in the answers, and we need to try and get 30 in under 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness, okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Time to start.
Yes.
What is the vicar's real first name?
Geraldine.
Oh, apparently it isn't. Real first
Oh
name?
no, it isn't, is it? It's
Oh, is it Julie Andrews or something like that?
No,
Julie Andrews
it's
is the
the
middle
name
name.
of that,
Boadicea.
Boadicea, yeah! Oh my God.
How do you spell Boadicea?
Boud. It depends. It depends whether we're doing Boudica or Boadicea.
We'll come back.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
What happens at the end of every episode?
A joke.
Who is famous for saying no, yes?
Jim. Trot.
Ah, okay. What is the name of the choir master?
Oh, Cyril. Right?
Cyril?
Cyril, yeah.
Cyril. What famous television show is broadcast from Dibley?
Songs of Praise.
Songs of Praise.
Yes, that's come right. What famous singer opens the Autumn Fair?
Kylie. No, it's not.
Kylie
It's not
Minogue.
No, but doesn't Thingy open it?
No, Reg Dwight is there, but Kylie
no, but he's not
officially
the famous
opens it.
singer.
No, I think Reg Dwight opens it, and then Kylie comes on.
No, but what famous singer?
Kylie's the right answer.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay, fair dues.
How many
could argue that
Christmas dinners did the vicar eat in the Christmas lunch instant?
4.
Is it 4?
Yes, because she goes to Owen's late at night, and this is where BBC Radio Northampton and me had to have a serious debate, because everyone thinks it's 3. They think it's Jim and Frank, then to David and Hugo, and then to finish off with Alice and her family. And then the vicar goes home. It's true that she does go home then, but then she has to go out again for Owen. So the answer is 4.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's not letting me say 4.
Oh, for goodness sake. Does that count as a Christmas
No,
tea?
3. Okay, we'll come back to that one. Who
Sporkle is
played
wrong.
Susie, the speed dating host in Happy New Year? This is
Miranda
one we haven't
Hart.
covered yet. Is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
Yay!
When Alice went on a honeymoon, who did Geraldine tell the joke to at the end of the episode? Is it David? Yeah, it's David.
Oh, well done. I didn't know that.
What is Alice's middle name?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
Is it? I thought it was.
Isn't it?
I thought it was Springs. Yeah, it is.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
Alice Springs.
Springs.
Where did I get
That's Geraldine.
Oh,
That's
Supercalif,
in
that's one of
Geraldine.
Geraldine's.
It's
Yeah.
one of Geraldine's. Choo
What
choo
is-
choo.
Owen's occupation.
Farmer.
Farmer. Yeah. Who came out as gay on the radio?
Frank.
Frank. What is the name of the parish church in Dibley?
St Barnabas.
Yes.
Yeah. Who is the village verger?
Alice
Alice.
Tinker.
Alice.
What is the name of the episode where the vicar falls in a puddle? Oh, that's
Ooh. Handsome
Is it one
Stranger?
of the like summer, spring, autumn ones?
Yeah, it's not Handsome Stranger because
That's
that's
what I
kind of
mean.
reprised in Handsome Stranger, but it's not.
Autumn.
Not the one.
It is autumn.
Is it autumn? Oh,
Yeah.
well done. Very clever.
Who does the vicar fall for in autumn? What's his name?
Harry.
No.
No, it's
David's brother. Simon.
Oh, yeah, the Liverpool dude.
Oh, it's not Simon. I thought it was Simon. Or maybe
Well,
I
to be
need
fair,
to put Horton.
if Autumn she jumps in the puddle, then it is Harry, isn't it?
No,
No,
because
'cause
Harry
that's-
appears in Handsome Stranger.
Yeah, it's later
But she
on.
jumps in the puddle for the first. Oh no! You're right. Sorry. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
living in a later season.
Is it what's his face from the BBC again?
No, it's autumn. It's when she jumps in the puddle for Simon. Isn't it?
She jumps. The first puddle that she jumps in is with. Is his name Simon?
Yeah.
David's brother.
I thought it was.
Simon.
Okay,
Move on, next
move
question.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
How kids do Alice and Hugo have?
Oh,
I think
above
that's how
20.
many. Is it 11? 12? 13?
101.
15?
9?
16.
It's not letting me type any of these. Who died in the Easter Bunny?
Oh, Letitia Cropley.
Cropley. God bless her soul.
Right, it's not coming out for that. Who does the vicar say wrote the Queen's speech in the Christmas lunch incident?
I don't remember.
Not a
Perhaps.
clue. At the end of Love and Marriage, what does David say to Geraldine? Is that don't go or something like that? Don't leave?
Yeah, possibly.
Is that when she's thinking about leaving after Please Don't Go? This is a rubbish quiz. What colour does Geraldine dye her hair to attract men?
Blonde.
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 I was going to go legally blonde.
Who does the vicar marry in the last ever episode?
Harry.
Harry. Who is Tristan, the producer from Songs of Praise's fiance?
Aoife.
Aoife. What is the name of Alice's sister? Oh, and then who played her? I know that. It's Mel Gidroych?
Good luck spelling that.
I know.
Oh, this is annoying me. This is my sister.
Next question.
Gutted.
It's Mel Gidroych, but I can't spell it. What age did Geraldine turn in Happy New Year? 40?
Could be, yeah.
40!
Well
Yes!
done.
How many comic relief specials are there?
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness.
7, 8, 9. I don't know.
When did the quiz come out? I feel like you've had
3.
more.
It won't let me do any numbers on this quiz apart from 40.
Okay.
Who does Alice name one of her kids after?
Geraldine.
Geraldine. We thought we called her Vicar.
Oh, it's the vicar is the answer. What would be Geraldine's specialist subject if she was to appear on Mastermind?
Oh, I know. I was going to say the Wombles. No.
Oh, I think it is the Wombles.
Is it?
Yeah, it is the Wombles.
Oh, that came somewhere out of deep from my subconscious.
What smashed through one of the church's stained glass windows? A
Big old tree.
Right, we've done all the questions. It's now looking back. Can we remember the vicar's real first name?
Boadicea.
We think it's Boadicea, but we can't seem to spell it. What happens at the end of every episode? It's a joke. Choir master, we're pretty sure is Cyril,
It's Cyril, yeah.
but we can't get that. How many Christmas dinners? You say 4. I don't know why it isn't saying that. Who does the vicar fall for in autumn? We're pretty sure it's Simon Horton, isn't it?
Yeah.
How kids do Alice and Hugo have? We don't know.
1,000.
6.
We know it's Letitia Cropley who dies in the Easter Bunny, but apparently I can't spell it. Who does the vicar say wrote the Queen's speech in Christmas lunch incident?
Probably one of those jokes we probably don't quite know because we don't know the person that she refers to because of the age of the programme, potentially.
Yeah, probably a politician that we don't remember.
Or a comedian.
At the end of Love and Marriage, what does David say to Geraldine?
I think it is don't go.
It's like don't go.
Don't go.
Yeah.
Don't go, yeah.
We can't remember the name of Alice's sister, but it's played by Mel Giedroyc.
Is it Betty? No, it's not Betty.
Betty?
No. It's not Betty.
5, 4, 3,
Oh!
2, 1.
No!
Oh, right, okay. It is Boadicea, but they've spelt it wrong. The vicar
Outrageous.
tells a joke, so we got that right. Cecil.
Oh,
Not
for
Cyril.
Cecil's sake. Yeah, Cecil. Oh, flips.
It
I
is
would've
4
got that.
lunches.
Oh, thank you. Retribution.
The answer for who does the vicar fall for in autumn is David's brother.
Oh,
Oh,
come
that's
on.
ridiculous.
Ugh.
The technical answer is definitely Simon. Uncle Simon. Big
Yeah.
Si.
Alice and Hugo have 10 children.
Mm.
It's Letitia. Oh, it's Ruby Wax wrote the Queen's speech in the Christmas lunch
Was
incident.
that a comedian?
That's funny.
Oh,
would've got that.
at the end of Love and Marriage, David just says stay.
Oh.
That's it. And
Stay
it's
now.
Alice's sister's called Mary,
Oh.
who is played by Mel Giedroyc, because I was right. And there's
Well
been
done.
6 comic relief specials.
Oh, I was going to say 6. That's weird.
I think there must be more now. When was this
Oh, yeah.
quiz done?
Oh,
I
I had
don't
a vibe.
It could be
6.
there's 6 on the DVD.
There we go. Happy quizzing.
So what does that give us out of 30 then?
Oh, so we got 18 out of 30, but
Oh.
according to this, but actually I think we got 25.
25. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a B plus or an A minus.
When we reach the end of season 2, we'll find a different quiz
Yeah.
and have a new
Yeah.
go.
Well done, everyone.
You know what we could do is see if we can get our lovely listeners to send us in cheeky questions for us to try and answer.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Or we could set questions for them next week, maybe. Let's get our knowledge up together. Let's make this a fun educational process.
Mm.
Good plan.
Well, thank you for the quiz.
You're welcome.
So we've come to the end of season 1 of A Vicar of Dibley, and we've had loads of fun. Our knowledge has, improved. We managed to
Woohoo!
get 25 out of 30. And I feel like I've rediscovered the show all over again in a whole new way. So thank you, Ruthie and Jenny, for being these wonderful rewatching and conversation partners, and thank you to our listeners who have been supporting us by humouring our strange little passion project.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
been a
you.
lot of fun. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, wonderful.
Onward to the next season.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Vicar's Watch Dibley. Thank you to Toby for editing our ramblings.
Any views expressed in this podcast are our own and don't necessarily represent those of the Church of England or any other organisations with which we are affiliated.
And as always, bless you for listening.
Forgive me, Father, Pastor, Vicar, Padre, Priest, for I have synonymed.
Very nice. Very nice.